back to season 1 of Snubs and Dubs, where we're talking the snubs and dubs of the 69th Academy Awards for Best Picture. I'm your host, Kyle Tobiasson, and once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Jason Miller. Jason, how you doing today?
Kyle, I'm doing great.
Good to be back.
It feels
Episode
good.
2.
We made it.
We did. We
An
were
entire
here.
episode and back for a second.
I should say off the top that I haven't actually been able to see what people feel about the new format yet because it's not out yet as the time of this recording, and for that matter, the next recording. So we won't actually know what you guys think about it for like 2 or 3 weeks. So just make sure you send us a message on Twitter or on Instagram, or leave a 5-star review at the end of this episode, and we'll make sure to read that as soon as we can. Also, one more housekeeping thing. We decided on a rating system that we are going to use for our films across the board from here on out. Now, obviously, we already did one film, and so now we have to retroactively add this rating system in. I'm going to quickly explain the rating system first before we dive into the rating for Independence Day, okay? So, for our ratings, we are going to rate them on 4 categories, each out of 5. The first is enjoyment. That's just basically our personal feelings about the movie, how much fun we had, that sort of thing, okay? Second is craft. That's considering things like cinematography, the score, costumes and makeup, all the kind of below-the-line stuff. Second is rewatchability, on how likely are we going to watch it again from a scale of 1 to 5. And lastly, execution. This is how well the story was executed through things like writing and performance. So this is considering the writing and the actor's performance. Okay. So, Jason, Independence Day. What do you rank enjoyment out of 5?
Oh, I mean, this is absolutely one of my all-time faves. This is deep embedded in my heart. It is lodged in my arteries. Enjoyment, this is going to come in pretty high, probably one of the highest of the rankings for Independence Day.
Right.
I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 for enjoyment. This
Solid.
is a feel-good. If I'm sick, I'm putting it on and getting cured.
Good.
If I'm in good health, I'm putting it on and gaining superpowers.
I'm also going to put it at a 4 because I did really enjoy it. Second of all is craft. What do you think?
So, I mean, the craft on this one, it's not the same level. This is a shoot-'em-up alien movie. Although the miniatures saved it, and the FX really brought I'm going to give it a 3.5 for craft.
Okay.
I think that's the wheelhouse, and a lot of that is going to be carried on the special effects work. Really lifted the movie to that.
Yeah, when you're talking about the craft, like the miniatures really elevate this. But like everything else is kind of like blockbuster filmmaking at its kind of most basic in a way. So I'm going to give it a 3, which is a little bit lower than you. Next off, execution.
Execution, I think it was pretty good. I can't find anything that really went wrong with it. And again, like all the special effects worked so well to pull it together.
Yeah.
So I'm probably just going to give it a 3. Just keep on that train. Nothing really blew me away. It didn't have the room to do that, but like they didn't miss. So
No, yeah. And there were some really good performances within that. Was there anything like that stood out as like, you know, this is the best thing or best acting, best writing ever? Nah,
No.
It's just enjoyable stuff. So I'm also going to give it a 3. And lastly, rewatchability. How likely are you going to rewatch this again?
Oh, I'm going to rewatch this again. I mean, like, I probably a 4 because I'm not going to go like
4.
completely out of my way to rewatch this, but like I will very much likely rewatch this. It will happen.
Yeah, I think with rewatchability, as soon as you get over like 2.5, you're probably going to watch it again. Like 4 is you will watch it when you have the time. 5 is most definitely you're going to make the effort to try it. 1 is you can't pay me to watch this movie again. And 2 is like if it's on, maybe you'll watch it, but you're not going to go out of your way for it. So I'm also going to give it a 4 because I do want to watch this one again. And so we will revisit that rating system at the end of this episode. But Jason, the film that we're talking about today, of course, continues with the season 1 theme of 1996. This is the 69th Academy Awards, and we are talking about the movie Primal Fear. Have you seen this one before?
I have not seen this one before. I didn't know about it before.
I didn't know about it either. It was like one of those movies when I was researching for the schedule for this season. I was like, yeah, I mean, like I think it was nominated in some areas and popular enough. It was like number 1 at the box office for like 3 weeks in the middle of April. And so I was like, yeah, I guess we'll throw it in there. But yeah, otherwise, I'd never heard of this movie.
didn't really live in the popular culture for decades to come afterwards. That's all right. Not every movie has to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's not waste any more time. We're going to jump right into it. Of course, if you are interested into this film and want to pick it up on physical media, I will include the Amazon links in the show notes for this show. If you pick it up through our link, it will help the show. I'm also going to include a general link for Amazon shopping. So if you have anything to buy on Amazon, go ahead and do it through the link. It helps with the show. And also a final reminder that this is going to be a spoiler-filled conversation. So if you haven't seen Primal Fear yet and you want to, go ahead and do so. I believe we watched it on Netflix. So if you have Netflix in Canada, you should be able to watch Primal Fear right now. Anyways, let's get into it, shall we? Primal Fear. Defense attorney Martin Vale takes on the jobs for money and prestige rather than any sense of the greater good. His latest case involves an altar boy accused of brutally murdering the Archbishop of Chicago. Vale finds himself up against his ex-pupil and ex-lover, but as the case progresses and the church's dark secrets are revealed, Vale finds that what appeared a small, simple case takes on a darker, more dangerous aspect. Primal Fear is an American legal thriller directed by Gregory Hoblit, which was his feature film debut. Gregory is mostly known for directing TV series and TV movies, but he had went on to direct movies like Fallen, Frequency, and Fracture. So really liked F titles from his movies. He's probably looking back and think, oh, I should have just called it Fear.
God damn it, I was scared and put the Primal in there.
This movie is also written by Steve Shagan and Ann Bitterman, based on William Dial's 1993 novel of the same name. It stars Richard Gere as Martin Vale, Laura Linney as Janet, John Mahoney as, oh my God, what is his name?
Shaughnessy.
Alfie Woodard as Shote, Frances McDormand as Molly. Frances McDormand actually won Best Actress this year, so she was busy this year. And also Edward Norton as Aaron. This was his feature film debut, but he was also in 2 other movies this year, Woody Allen's Everyone Says I Love You, and Milos Forman's The People versus Larry Flint, which is another movie we're going to talk about this season. The runtime is 130 minutes, so just over 2 hours, and it released on April 3rd of 1996. So, Jason, what did you think of Primal Fear?
I really enjoyed it. It was a fun story that was unfolding, and I didn't know it was based on a book.
Mm-hmm.
So that has changed some things in my opinion, I guess. But I really enjoyed it. It was a good storyline. It was pretty gripping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not shocked that the director was mostly TV, because this felt like a really good short TV series almost. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. How about you?
I liked it too. Yeah, I feel like this movie leaves you on a high. And we'll get to that. I know we said this is a spoiler-filled conversation, but we'll get to the end.
Yeah, you can't just drop the end at the start. We're at the beginning, not
but
the ending.
I do think the ending leaves you on a high. And I think when I was looking back afterwards and reflecting on what the rest of this movie is, parts of it I'm like, it's okay. But I think there's some really standouts in this movie. So do you want to get into the plot?
Let's get into the plot. So the movie begins. Vale is kind of in the middle of an interview with a reporter that he has to quickly excuse himself from to attend a nice, I guess, ball gown gala, some elaborate party. Yeah. There's children choirs singing. Everyone's having a grand time. Mm-hmm. I believe the Archbishop is one of the feature guests.
Yeah.
And does a speech near the end that you kind of just hear like a little glimmer of, but not really like super important. But Vale runs into an ex-lover who he has still clearly got some flames for. Does a lot of shoulder kissing, a lot of shoulder whispering,
a lot of getting really close behind her and kind of it does not
really respect her personal space at any point.
But I mean, he does. He doesn't force himself on her, but he's not. He doesn't respect the boundaries.
No. For 1996, this was probably on the breaking grounds of respecting other people's bodily autonomy. But when you look back at it now, it ain't right. There's
no. I was waiting for this to be for her to turn around at moments like this and just start kissing them, or for them to go up to the room and just have crazy sex, and then him just toss her aside. But when she says no, he at least walks away.
It's never the first no, but at least he takes the no, I guess.
He does.
So Slightly problematic icon, Vale. After speaking to Janet at the gala, it kind of cuts to where he is making a deal with some of the high rollers in the legal grounds. He ran into them at the gala, and they had made a meeting for the next morning where they're settling an active case that you don't really know a whole lot about.
No.
But you are told that there is a large, big dollar settlement going on with the terms that I believe, mobster? I don't... Gang?
I think they're mobsters or like organized crime type people. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. There's an organized crime element to that because, of course, they're drinking whiskey and playing pool. So, you know, it's a highbrow kind of crime syndicate. They have some kind of settlement going on for $1.5 million. And the condition that the main mobster has to split town after, which...
Yeah, he doesn't want to do.
He doesn't want... Fair enough. He lives there. And also, that's not something that you can really enforce on someone, which I think is even mentioned by Vale, that you can't put a limit on someone's movement. So whatever, I guess that's the end of that.
There was a reason for that too, right? Like this was one part of the movie that I didn't really catch on to like as much, because there's this mobster element that does tie into the church, because I guess they're trying to get him out of town so that this group can buy up the land that he's on and like kind of just destroy the community that they're living in.
Yeah, so I think there's like a two-part that, because it's kind of revealed later on that there's a lot of business ties between these highballing elites, Shaughnessy and his associate, and the
church,
the good Archbishop Rushman?
I think so, yeah.
I almost said Rushmore. And the good Archbishop Rushman. So I believe part of that is that, as also revealed later in the movie, those mobsters had kind of talked to the church about not redeveloping the land and moving all these people out. So they're part of the reason why they're just sitting on that huge loss of buying that property that then the church didn't want to do anything on.
Yeah.
But also they wanted to buy them out of those places so they could, do some bulldozing and...
I think it was like condos or something they wanted to build. Yeah.
Classic, like, villainesque businessmen who want to kick poor people out to just build high rises.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the Archbishop was even getting death threats for like his like blocking of this.
Yes, that's also kind of touched on briefly, but not really like with much importance for some reason in a murder case.
Yeah, I'll let you continue, but that's just one point of this movie that was a little weird.
And it does a lot of jumping around, but they kind of like plant some details early in the movie, all times a day, early in the movie that like do come back later, but they didn't feel like a naturally were dropped there. They're kind of like basically looking at the audience being like, hey guys,
this is more complicated,
There's more going on here than originally met the eye, am I right?
Yeah, but then like at the... Oh man, we're kind of jumping around right
now.
Okay. But in the end, it doesn't really pay off.
No,
it becomes non-useful information that they were just using to kind of fluff what was going on. Like the most important stuff was going on was between like Aaron and that whole case and his side of it with the Archbishop, not the DA's office or the district attorney with this. Yeah.
And a lot of this comes back for like a 5-minute dunk later in the movie on the district attorney, which isn't really important to the plot.
No.
I guess it does give some like character resolution in a way, but like it's not really moving the story forward. So they spent a lot of time building up to it in the start, which is interesting.
Yeah. And then it just kind of runs in the background.
Yeah. It's not like, if you don't really notice it or pay attention to it, it's not going to affect a whole lot.
No, not at all. But anyways.
Yeah, so after they reach that settlement, Merton Vale goes down to the bar to speak with the reporter again, who's just trying to make a story to feed his family, but gets interrupted once again by a breaking news story that the Archbishop Rushman has been murdered, and there is some skinny kid running away with blood all over him.
Yep.
I do love the scene of the Archbishop getting murdered because, first of all, I did not expect fingers to get severed. That was like actually kind of caught me by surprise that they were willing to go that far.
Yeah, they went the extra effort to make the prosthetic hand to chop off the fingers.
I was actually really impressed by that.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be like a classic, like, it's hidden by a curtain so that our rating doesn't drop, or like we don't.
You see the knife go up in the air, and it's just the shot of the knife in the guy's hand. I was like, oh, they'll bring it down, and the rest will be off screen. They're just showing you the knife so that you know they're stabbing him. The rest you'll just hear like stabbing noises, and that'll be it. But they go all the way to show like some graphic stuff and like show how many times they don't show all the times he was stabbed.
No.
How many times was he even stabbed?
It was like 50 or 80 times. It was a lot of stabbing.
Stupid amount. Like that's like an afternoon's worth of stab. Like that guy, like whoever did it, we won't get to it yet, but like They must have been jacked in the one arm afterwards.
I'm surprised one knife could do that many stabs. You'd think he had to bring like a whole lineup of them to get the job done.
Or do you think you like run out of room eventually? You're just
much skin.
stabbing the same spot after a while.
I think they're just trying to get their numbers up for stab cases.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we need to really pad these numbers to make a good case. 87, let's go.
Yeah.
I also love in this scene when the fight's going on, all the windows in the room explode outward with no real reason for the windows to explode outwards.
I think maybe it was implying that he like pushed him against the window or something.
Yeah.
But like,
it was just the weirdest scene where there's like there's 3 panes to the window. It kind of like is an outward balcony looking thing.
Yeah.
And like window break. When
Yeah.
like an explosion slowly went off, or like someone was repeatedly thrown into the window, but you don't see anyone make contact with the window. It's just glass shooting
and
out.
that's completely what tips off the mailman who eventually calls the police so quickly, and that's why they were like able to catch Aaron in the chase, because he kind of made himself completely.
Like he became a suspect immediately.
Well, yeah, and he was also like obnoxiously like loud. It was like very apparent that that this was happening. It was not subtle. That's the word I was trying to look for. It was not subtle.
I guess like when the Archbishop was getting stabbed, all I could think it was an emergency break glass. That's all he did. So yeah, there's a relatively long scene of the police chasing down Aaron, who's kind of making a break for it in like a pretty gangly way, running down some train tracks where he briefly gets away from the police by like hopping across the tracks and having the train go by. But then I think he was just kind of running out of steam at that point. You have to imagine his stamina was running at half max after all those stab wounds, so he just hide beneath the tracks. Allegedly he stabbed the body 87 times. But then he's arrested, and it cuts back to Vale, who is once again cutting the interview short because he needs to go represent this client above all else. He sees the attention that this young man is getting for his alleged murder, and he needs to allegedly represent him in court pro bono.
Yeah.
Because Martin Vale's such a good guy. He's a hero.
Like, when he did it pro bono, like, there was a lot of work done to kind of make you know that this guy's pretty slimy early on, and then later on he's like trying to I don't know if maybe this was added in or if this was in the book, but he's like, oh, I'm just trying to see the goodness in everybody, like that's why I did it pro bono, that's why I was doing all these cases with these criminals and these murderers, because I just think there's good in everyone. No you don't. Stop pretending.
You think there's attention for yourself in everyone.
Yeah.
Which I think is also, it tries to build that, because when he says all of that, he's very drunk and really just kind of laying it on, absolutely pouring it on this reporter about how good of a person he is, which kind of gets contrasted at the end when he just kind of doesn't go through the media circuit at the end.
Yeah.
So after he agrees to represent this young Aaron fellow, who is just such a lovely young man.
Yeah,
he's
just
so
quiet
cute
and calm, and he's got this little stutter that makes you, feel kind of, he's gentle,
Yeah, and he's got like that southern drawl.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed his voice. He was cute. Like he was clearly innocent. You talked to him for 2 minutes, like, oh, what a sweet
what a sweet little Edward Norton.
He couldn't have possibly have done this. So that's kind of where Martin Vale falls into, and he is completely just won over by this sweet young man, and is right from the get-go in his corner saying that, oh, he didn't do it. And like, which also goes against some things he was saying earlier, where he says like, I don't care if they did it or not.
Yeah.
When he was like clearly instantly won over and believing that this young man didn't do it. So he kind of does care, because his belief in his innocence is really what powers him to keep working this case.
Well, and it's because Aaron tells him that there was a third guy in the room.
Yeah.
And so he believes that there actually maybe is an actual other murderer that potentially they could capture and get. And I think that's what really solidifies him in this case. But I think he would have done it anyways.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like now he thinks that Aaron's telling the truth because there was a third person, or Aaron's innocent because there was a third person. Whereas before he was probably just doing it for the intention. Exactly.
And I think also what Vale is trying to do is just prove that there could have been a third person.
Yeah.
Because if that's enough doubt, that combined with this absolute beautiful baby boy would be enough for even one juror to not convict, and then they move on because they can't get a conviction into mistrial, or he's even better, he's just ruled not guilty because they're able to convince the jury that maybe someone else did it, and this sweet young lad was just rolling around in the blood after, and nothing more than that.
Yep.
One thing I do want to talk about is that this is now jumping back because I forgot about this.
Cool.
But when Martin is rubbing up on Janet in the bar, she has some zingers.
Yeah.
She kind of lays into him. There was one line that I really loved, and she said like, "Oh, it was a one night stand. It lasted 6 months, but it was a one night stand." Like,
oof,
Martin Vale.
That really shows like what their relationship was, or how she thought about, or maybe how he acted in the relationship. Was just that was a one night stand that lasted for 6 months. Oof.
Yeah.
But I really liked Laura Linney in this. She was
so good. She was really powerful, but also like showed the vulnerability of the position she was in so well. She did an amazing job in this.
Yeah.
Now she's given the case as a prosecution. So we get a little backstory later, but Vale had left the district attorney's office, and Janet was kind of his understudy or someone kind of working below him in the hierarchy. And when he left, he wanted her to come with him. But she refused. She stayed at the DA's office because I guess she saw more of a career that way. And this is kind of one of her big breaks, is being given this case as the prosecution. Because even though the case kind of is a slam dunk, the DA's office wants the death penalty because of, the connections that Archbishop Rushman had. And also it's Shaughnessy is the one who is the district attorney who has the financial ties to Rushman. So he really wants this young man turned into dust.
Yeah, gone.
Exactly. So you get the scene after Janet is given the case as the prosecutor. Both her and Vale meet up at the crime scene to kind of go over evidence.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting scene because that's where you get a lot of the backstory between them. You learn that they're more than just like ex-flames. And in fact, there's kind of like a power dynamic going on here. You can see like a little bit of the back and forth between the two as well. When Janet says the gruesome picture, and then Martin says, "I wouldn't say gruesome in front of a jury," which later she describes the pictures as gruesome, which is kind of a funny little tie-in. She doesn't listen to authority like that. She's her own woman. She's absolute boss babe energy. So they kind of go over a bunch of the evidence that's present at the scene there. Each of them it's more about the conversation really, because there's not a whole lot uncovered while that's going on.
Yeah.
And then it kind of splits off and it goes into the direction of preparing for the case now. You see Vale and his team of Molly and Goodman start putting together the evidence. There is a code that is carved into the chest of Rushman, which is one of the major details about the murder, along with the obscene number of stab wounds. He also had time to drop like a link to something in there, like
and space on the body.
Yeah, enough that they could tell what it was.
Jesus. This is kind of like a vulgar, gross thing to laugh about, but it is the absurdity of the amount of stab wounds.
It's just
and also having the room.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And did you break it up? Was there stab put in the code, more stab? Was it all stab then code?
Maybe you put in the code and then stab around the code.
Yeah, that's probably better for space. It's kind of like writing happy birthday on a card. Like, you're going to run out of room unless you plan ahead.
And then you can just stab until you run out of time.
Exactly. Until you're like, oh man, this knife has really run out of knife. I got to get out of here.
Oh God.
So this is also, I believe, the time where they discovered that there is the larger connections between Rushman and the different elites in the city. I might have missed... I can't remember chronologically if they find this connection before they run into Aaron's roommate, so we're just going to run with it. But this is slightly where they kind of get the payoff from the first bit of talking to the mobsters that they're representing earlier, where there is a deeper connection between Shaughnessy and Rushman. It's kind of funny because they accidentally stumble onto this. Molly actually misinterprets the code that was stabbed into Rushman, thinking that a B was an 8. And because of that, as pouring through the city records, able to uncover a bunch of like fishy business dealings instead of finding what the prosecution ends up finding later that you kind of get revealed in the court case. But this really solidifies Vale, and he thinks, oh, we got like a money caper. It wasn't Aaron at all. We have him nailed down. This is actually about the big dollars, because they find out that he was sitting on millions of dollars worth of land that now Shaughnessy couldn't build anything on. It was told to him by the lovely mobsters.
Yep. And that comes up in court later too, but I think it's also tossed aside.
Yeah, I think, so what happened was when he was interviewing Shaughnessy on the witness stand, he just got a little too heated. he had just a bit of a heated lawyer moment and really laid into this guy personally.
Yeah.
And because of that, the judge ruled it inadmissible because it wasn't actually super related to the court and was kind of just like a personal vendetta.
Yeah, it's true. But like, yeah. And it also kind of, this choice really shows that this part of it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of the movie.
It was so weird for that to have been the call from the judge.
Yeah.
I think it does slightly set up later when she's annoyed at him for other court dealings, but it still wasn't needed for that. She could just be mad at him for other court dealings that had gone on. They should have just let it tie more into the actual court case so we could have had a better payoff from what they were setting up earlier.
Yeah, and more consequences that would be paid off as a result of this going so big. But yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time that Molly's digging through the trenches of the city records, Goodman goes to search Aaron's apartment and doesn't find any evidence, but does find an ass whooping. He gets jumped by an unknown person who's just kind of hanging around in there. And there is a bit of a tussle. He does get some scratches in while getting his ass handed to him. But the assailant gets away with just minor ear injuries.
Yep.
And, this does happen.
Because he steals his earring.
Exactly, yeah. So he's able to mark him that way by ripping the earring out.
Well, and he's also able to show Aaron the earring and say, like, do you know who has this, who would be in your apartment?
Yeah.
He does.
And this kind of ties back into wanting to prove that third person who was there, because now it's like, oh, we found a violent roommate who is also an altar boy, just like Aaron. This is perfect. This is the slam dunk we need.
Yeah. I think I should also clarify, Molly is not the dark-haired girl.
Oh, that is
Molly is the psychiatrist.
Oh man,
we should find what the name of the person is.
Yeah.
Naomi. Her name is Naomi. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Molly is Frances McDormand. Naomi is the other lady.
So silly.
Wow, you really screwed the pooch on this
one. Got my female actresses mixed up.
Jason, this is your last episode.
Oh man, former co-host Jason Miller really bit it on this one. First time that I had to put the plot together and it came all unraveled. So yeah, Goodman gets beat, and that kind of pauses for a bit because then it cuts over to talking to Aaron, who had kind of had some conversations with Vale throughout, where he doesn't really give a whole lot of good information. You can see him kind of get confused and lost pretty easily.
Yeah.
Vale just kind of tells him what to do. Like, there's a scene where he's talking to him, and it's in the prison when he brings the suit for Aaron to get fitted, and he's trying to tell Aaron, like, you don't need to say anything. You just need to sit there with that smile. And there's a cute moment where he's like, yeah, you need to look just like that. And he's like, oh, shucks.
Well, he's like, you just need to act innocent. And he's like, well, I am innocent. And he's like, yes, do that. Look in the mirror if you have to, but remember this.
And you just want to kiss his little forehead when he says that. It is adorable. It's such a good line.
Yeah, it's really good. One thing we haven't mentioned, though, is that Aaron doesn't remember any of it happening. He claims that he blacked out and that he doesn't remember how he got from point A to point B.
That's true. He says that he lost the time.
Yeah.
Which, again, in his southern drawl, is this like, were you having tea? Were you having some sweet tea? I don't know, but I'm hoping you did. I'm hoping you had a great day, buddy.
When he did say that, though, I immediately became a little suspicious.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you're all sweet and innocent or whatever, but you don't remember anything that happened?
It is rather convenient that there was the multiple stories of he came to drop off a book that he had borrowed, but at the same time, he didn't remember anything that happened, but he was there for a good reason, so he kind of had an alibi or a reason to be in there, but also he blacked out. It is suspicious.
Very sus.
And part of the story is that it does kind of weave that doubt that even though Vale is dead set on Aaron being innocent, you as the viewer could have a different interpretation because they don't actually ever really clear him throughout. There's just the inference or the belief that he is.
Yeah.
So as Goodman is off collecting evidence and then he injures the roommate, after that we kind of cut back to the court case where through the revealing of evidence we find that the code that was carved into Rushman's chest, it was not a B, it was not an 8 as Naomi had suggested. It was in fact a B.
Yes. It was a B.
Because it was a book code. For absolute nerds out there who remembered library codes, Dewey decimaled this guy's chest cavity, and it was a number that led back to a book, The Scarlet Letter, and a particular passage from that. No man for any considerable period can wear one face to himself and another for the multitude without finally getting bewildered as to which may be true. So this is interpreted as maybe Aaron believes that Rushman had a mask on and he was actually a bad person in private.
Yeah.
Which, like, yeah, he really
He
was.
in more, I guess, more ways than one. But he didn't really, he wasn't involved in the. Wait, he was
In the business dealing?
Yeah, sorry. He blocked the business dealing.
Yeah, he was kind of in a moral, I guess, good but still gray zone.
Yeah.
Where, like, why does a church have such a wide investment portfolio?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess because he did listen to people who didn't want the developments to go up, then I guess he is good.
Yeah,
but
it's also mobsters that he's helping out.
Yeah, so it's like it's such a catch-22 because also like he entered into the agreement with the purpose of buying up that land for condos, and then when poor people asked him not to, he didn't. So it's like, yeah, I guess like that's a good reaction, but why were you there in the first place?
Yep.
It's like breaking into a house and then kind of like tidying up on your way out. Like you shouldn't be in this situation, but I guess you could have been worse about it if you tried.
Yeah, so two-faced, that's then becomes kind of a theme going forward.
Yeah, because after that, we also learn through the psychiatrist, which we'll kind of get to in a little bit, that there's more to go on with Aaron as well, and there might be multiple two-face. There's a lot of faces involved in this story. But after there's the big reveal that, oh no, it wasn't business code, so that was actually just a lucky find, which still should have been a good job, Naomi, I think.
Yeah, he does kind of rail into her afterwards.
Oh yeah, he delivers the business on a recess.
But then, she did kind of help in a way because they've uncovered this stuff, but it's all about Aaron now.
So wrong answer, but also wrong method, but still not the worst answer.
No.
So after just railing into that, it kind of cuts back to the psychiatrist. So the psychiatrist had been hired by Vale to interview Aaron to kind of get to know him, to see kind of what mental state he's in, because there was always the insanity plea was on the table, and he wanted to find out the validity of that.
Well, and he didn't, in the first appearance in court, he didn't want Aaron to say anything until he had been cleared by a psychiatrist to be in like the right state of mind to actually say guilty or non-guilty.
Exactly. And there was like that kind of lawyery moment where he pleaded the fifth to understanding the charges, which like I know what pleading the fifth means. I don't know how I don't know enough about lawyery things to know if that was like a cool 180 like kickflip that he pulled in the courtroom or not. But he gets props for it from Janet, so I guess it was interesting enough. I don't know. But then they do the full psychiatric evaluation where they kind of ask questions. The psychiatrist knew of a girlfriend that Aaron had. And when she starts asking him questions about that, you can see the man get quite flustered. He says that his head hurts. And then all of a sudden, from the ashes of this little whiny Aaron kid is Roy.
Yeah. And what does he say? It's so... It fucking hits. Like, as soon as he turns, Edward Norton, this being his first theatrical role, like he fucking crushed it. Like,
I am shocked that this was his first theatrical role because he did such a good job.
Yeah. And when I get into fun facts later, this was largely considered to be like a star-making role for a young actor who could come in out of nowhere and become this big star, which, of course happened. Edward Norton's huge now, but...
Oh, yeah, could Roy out of nowhere. I believe the line was it's actually kind of an important setup, too.
Yeah.
The psychiatrist walks over to her camera because the battery's low, and as she's kind of, like, figuring out, trying to, like, adjust it and whatnot and see the battery power, she says, Aaron, do you know what I can do with this recorder? And then he goes... How the fuck would I know? And you're like, Aaron, you like, sweet baby boy. You can't say that word.
Yeah, and Vale comes in...
Slightly
later.
After.
Okay. So he doesn't come in at this first appearance. Yeah. Yeah,
because she kind of talks to Roy a little bit, but it's not on camera because it does die after that. But you do get a little glimpse of just the first line of Roy. And then you actually kind of see her walk closer to the door and kind of continue the conversation from there. So she's always like able to slip out if Roy starts really going all just down to Roy town on her.
Yeah. And so this is where we first get that sense that Aaron, because when Aaron kind of recovers and Roy becomes Aaron again, you get the sense that this character or this personality that Aaron has is causing the blackouts too. So when Aaron can't remember anything, it's likely he's as Roy, because Aaron wakes up and he's like, "Whoa! Like, how did I get on the floor here?"
Oh, Golly gee. And it also kind of ask the question, because he did reveal that like he had like an abusive father, pretty bad home life. I believe his mother had passed away or something like that.
Yeah.
But he did also mention that he had lost the time before. So like, well, who'd you kill then, Aaron? Where are those bodies buried, buddy? Once you kind of learn that there's a little more to Aaron, there's a whole other personality in there. We then cut to a different scene. I don't know if that chronologically works just like that. But story-wise, what happens is that after the absolute ream job that Vale gives Naomi and Goodman in the courtroom, Goodman and Vale then go and try and find this roommate of Aaron's, who, unfortunately for the altar boy, is also kind of, it seems, transient. And I guess he wouldn't be an altar boy anymore because only Aaron was kept on after turning 18.
Yeah.
So he, unfortunately, was kind of just begging on the street, it appears. And Goodman's like, yeah, it's the guy with the ear tape on because I ripped his earring out. So they catch this guy who kind of, there's a brief chase scene. They kind of catch him in like an underground area.
Yeah. Can I just say, when this started happening, I had no idea what was going on.
I didn't either.
I was like, it just cuts to this randomly. Like all of a sudden we're randomly in this like dark street and they're looking at a guy, and then like Goodman and Vale are like making eye contact, and then they see, what's his name?
I don't even remember what.
Don't remember his
Alex?
name.
I think it was Alex.
Yeah. They see Alex and they're just like, oh, is that the guy? And then they just start chasing him. And then I was like, okay, like who is this guy? Like,
Yeah, why?
Why are we running after this guy?
He was just begging on the street, my friends. Like, he's, what are you doing?
It wasn't until after they started having the conversation with him that you then realized what was going on. There was like no conversation before this. At least maybe I missed it, but like if you didn't know what was going on too, they must have cut it or something, because it was just jumped
It was
on me.
out of and like with this plot, there is quite a bit happening somewhat simultaneously, so there is a little bit of jumping around. But this was a pretty hard cut where there wasn't really an explanation. You kind of assume there might be a scene beforehand where they kind of just set up what's about to happen, because this could come up in a conversation after the reaming about a plan for that afternoon to do that.
Yeah.
Or like, would you find anything on Alex? And then he could be like, yeah, he's, been spotted around here. And then you go do that. But it really just kind of cuts in out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That was very TV in a way.
That's also kind of, there was a lot of scenes about this that are kind of TV, where you would kind of expect some kind of transition to set it up in a movie, but in a TV show, you wouldn't really question it.
Yeah.
Because you're not worried about finding out answers later in the show.
Like if you were watching this on cable TV, that would be the scene that you come back after commercial and you're like, oh, I mean, you still might feel like you missed something, but it's like a hard break.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden you're doing this other thing.
But you're like kind of prepared to not know what's happening when you go into that. So that's fine in a TV show, but it was strange in a movie.
It was strange in a movie.
But yeah, so you learn a lot of important details. This one actually kind of really paints a different picture, because one of the main issues that the prosecution team had was they couldn't prove any kind of motive for Aaron to have killed Rushman, which is what allowed Vale to try and paint like this third person picture, because if he could just prove that anyone else could have, then that puts a hole in it. But we find out that the Archbishop Rushman was actually kind of into, was it child pornography? I believe. I don't think they were children.
Adults.
They were adults for that
it was
recording.
Just weird voyeurism going on. So we learned that the Archbishop has been recording Roy, Alex, and their girlfriend Linda.
Yes,
Linda,
I think so.
Having sex and basically kind of like directing them through the act.
Yeah. And I don't know if this was correct or not. But I got the vibe that had been going on for a while. So I think there was like an inference of like some kind of like pedophilia going on, or like children were involved to some degree. I could be wrong on that.
Maybe.
That was the shady vibe I was getting from it.
Well, that's the thing, is I don't think they wanted to like go for the church pedophilia thing.
Yeah.
And so they did say, or because he kept him on after 18, that might have been kind of explaining that like this only started happening when he was 18.
Yeah. Although there was later in the court case, they had called, or it was when Shaughnessy was on the stand, and Vale had talked to him about someone having filed like sexual harassment claims against the Archbishop, and I believe that was explicitly underage.
Yeah, you're right. So there was, so this guy was a little bit of a
so he was really getting into a lot of absolutely disgusting acts. But the ones relevant to the plot was just the filming of not really consensual sex between these three young people.
Yeah.
And filming it for his own pleasure, or I believe as he put it, to get the demons out. which sounds like the demons were more coming in than anything else. Good buddy.
Yeah, yikes.
So what this does is unfortunately gives Aaron a very good motive to kill this man.
Yes.
It's now like, understandably, he is very much a victim of Archbishop Rushman. So Vale now needs to go on a little caper to go collect the tapes from Rushman, where it's a funny scene where he just kind of walks in and there's a security guard there who does not care.
Nah.
Not doing his job.
It's like, hey, buddy, I'm just going to check in for a bit. Okay.
It's like, don't steal anything.
Yeah. I'm warning you.
Yeah.
Continues on with whatever task he was doing.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
just like standing there too. He just wasn't doing anything. He just didn't care.
Good for him. You know what? Collect that paycheck. Don't lift a finger on company time. So Vale's able to do a little swapperino. He records the tape with the explicit material. And then there's the conversation about what to do with it.
Yeah. Because it's tricky because, like you said, this gives Aaron motive to perform the killing. And so I think Vale knows that now. But like the only way they can get him is through this angle of Rushman being a bad guy. I don't know. Like, what was the angle they were going for?
So I think that the two directions they were going to go with it was that, unfortunately, it gave a very good motive to Aaron.
Yeah.
But that, coupled with his history of being abused, could make him be like, there could be a lot of sympathy for him from the jurors. So maybe they don't want to convict him. And maybe some of them are willing to morally not convict because of that. So it's kind of a tough scenario. But the case had been going very poorly at this point. So it's kind of like a Hail Mary, like, even though we're giving them the final nail for motive, like maybe they'll be sad for him, and that might be the best that they have.
Yeah, and like I think what really kind of propels Vale's like I guess like rejuvenance in this case is the way that they can use Roy essentially with the multiple personalities, but he's not allowed to plead insanity because he's already plead not guilty and claiming that there was a third person in the room. And so he's not allowed to take that angle anymore.
Exactly, yeah. And they need to also find the right way to introduce it into evidence.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to introduce it themselves. They want the prosecution to do that because it kind of strengthens their case of the sympathy angle. So actually, in between, before they try and slip this one to Janet, is when Vale goes back to Aaron.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. And as he goes in there, because he had just found out about the tapes, he had watched them, he knew what was going on. He was pissed that Aaron had been lying to him by omitting this very relevant information. So as he's going into the room, the psychiatrist is just standing outside, and she tries to like motion to him to be like, hold on, this guy could be a killer in there. He's looking real mad.
Yeah.
But in classic, I'm important and angry in this moment, he just gives her like the wait a second finger and like storms on in to talk to Aaron.
And sure enough, as he's fucking drilling into them, Aaron becomes Roy. And actually, like, kicks the shit out of Richard Gere.
He gets a little violent.
Yeah. And so, like, that also kind of wakes you up to the violent nature of Aaron's inner demon, which, you know, it also adds a little bit of suspect to whether he did it or not. And I think at this point, I do believe that he did it, and I think he does confess to.
Yes,
these
he
guys.
does.
He's like, I did it, like, or Roy did it. You know,
like, oh, Aaron was too weak to do it, but I did it. I did what had to be done, kind of thing. Which really gives Vale some hope in the way that he can maybe weasel out of this on some technicality that like Roy did it, or through the sympathy angle. But also he realized that he kind of got duped, and this kid did stab Archbishop 300 times, whatever. So it's kind of a double whammy there, which leads to them having to try and slip the VCR to Janet because they want her to introduce it.
Yeah, and she picks up on it right away. Like, on her, she like knows exactly what they're trying to do.
Oh yeah, because they meet for like a little dinner or drinks or something at a bar that's just about to close for whatever reason. This was also kind of interesting because she had so many different pressures acting on her because she knew that Vale wanted her to play the tape. So she didn't want to play the tape. But then her bosses didn't want her to play the tape. So then she wanted to play the tape.
Yeah. Yeah, because like she didn't want to play the tape because of Vale. But she also maybe did want to play the tape because it helps her case, but then she knows that it also helps Vale's case. But then because the DA didn't want her to play the tape because it kind of implicates Rushman as like a creepy guy, he didn't want her to do it, and so Yeah, that was the more complicated aspect of that second part of the movie, which is the whole land agreements and DA being shady too. Like that aspect where it complicates Janet's decisions is the most interesting part of that, where as it relates to the whole case, it wasn't that.
But again, you didn't even need the land stuff in there. You had already set up earlier in the movie that she was trying to defend her like authority in this role and telling these guys to back off.
Yeah.
So all you had to do was have them try to intervene on her authority in this case, and that's enough motive for her to want to play it despite them.
Yeah.
And afterwards she does that. She tells Shaughnessy what's good after she plays the tape. So again,
awesome.
The land wasn't needed in this. It was just extra stuff.
Well, and also I don't remember when this happens, but they kill one of the mobsters.
Yeah.
Is that later on? Did you even write that down? Because I don't even know
because I didn't know whose body it was until later. Like, it's not...
It was the guy he was talking to at the start. But then he also asks another mobster if he would confess. And that wasn't the mobster that got killed. Yeah. And so that whole aspect had nothing to do with the rest of the plot of the movie. Those two characters didn't matter. And so they had to kill him off for no reason.
So the only kind of payoff to that is what helps propel Vale to call Shaughnessy to the stand, because after he drills into him, it's like, that was for Big Joe. I don't remember what his name is, but again, you didn't need that. He already didn't like Shaughnessy, and they had like a really weird confrontational dinner earlier where you set that up. So this is like the land dealing whole part of this movie was always like just a second factor in a bunch of decisions that were kind of covered from the first factor.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Anyways.
So after kind of a lot of deliberation on Janet's part with the varying relationships she's trying to balance while she builds this case, she does play the tape, introducing it into evidence. I mean, it is kind of a slam dunk for her. She needed motive, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if sympathy is really strong enough to like tell or to let a guy free, because he did stab. Like, that was so many stab wounds. That was a lot of stab. That might excuse up to 5. You might get up to 5 from the sympathy angle, but you're dealing with 82.
80 to go.
Yeah. And at this point, it kind of goes mostly all in on the court case. There's not a whole lot of more evidence gathering going on.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a back and forth of witnesses now. And I believe the next kind of witness to come up, Vale called on psychiatrist Molly to come take the stand and kind of talk about Aaron and what she has found talking to him for a while.
Yeah. And the judge kind of shuts her up, though, because she keeps propelling this narrative of the multiple personalities, and he's not allowed to do that. So she's basically, like, I guess the jury's hearing this, but, like, they're supposed to wipe it from the record, aren't they?
Yeah, they're supposed to, like, ignore it ever happened.
Yeah. And so, like, everything that Molly worked for is completely just disregarded, too, because, like, he can't even take this angle.
Mm-hmm. And you had seen just before that Molly is called to the stand, Vale's watching the tape of her talking to Aaron/Roy.
Yeah.
And when she thought the tape had cut off is when you get one glimpse of Roy. So one of the last questions that he asks her before the judge kind of calls it quits on that testimony is that he asked her if she had a recording of Roy, and she says no, thinking that she doesn't, but she actually did.
Yeah.
And that kind of puts Vale into a bind where now he can't really introduce the tape because there'd be no value of it anymore.
Yeah.
But he still really needs to get Roy on there as kind of the last Hail Mary. So after he's done talking to Molly, Janet absolutely rips her a new one. Like, I thought the yelling was a violent form of talking to someone, but what Janet does to Molly on that stand, she really reduces her and her entire profession to dust.
Yeah, because she's basically calling into question her professionalism and her qualifications. And like when Molly has to say like no, like what is she like? She's like a
she's not a forensic psychologist. She's more of an academic. Was the slam?
Yeah, and I mean in my opinion, if she's an academic, like she probably knows a bit.
Yeah, like that's kind of good enough in my books.
Studying it. So
but if I was in the jury, I would disregard everything this woman said just for the quality of the burn. So I think that one did pay off. Like, she absolutely took her to town.
Yeah. Janet's a good lawyer.
Janet is a fiery lawyer. I would be scared to cross paths with her. So At this point, Vale really has almost no case. He goes down to the man that he told not to talk just a few short days ago, and he puts him on the witness stand.
Yep.
And the first thing he does when our beautiful boy Aaron takes a stand is he covers the mic, which I don't think would work because it's a pretty large mic and he covers like half of it.
Yeah, and also it's a dead quiet courtroom.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't even being that quiet when he was like insulting him.
He like covers the mic, goes up to him, you little bitch boy, and like kind of like taunts him to try and get Roy to come
coaxing
out.
Roy out, yeah.
But he knows that he can just ask whatever questions to Aaron, kind of get Aaron to reaffirm how innocent he is, because he knows once he's done and the cross-examination comes out that Janet's coming at him at 300 miles an hour with an absolute just trailer truck of rocks to hit this poor kid. He knows that's going to bring Roy out anyways, and that's exactly what happens. Janet just absolutely cross-examines this man into questioning if he knows how to spell his own name. And then the Royman comes out of anger.
He comes out big too. Like he goes fucking crazy on her and jumps across the stand and like just grabs her.
He takes hostages.
Yeah. And like just like holds her down. And this was, again, good acting on
it was a
Edward
really
Norton
good performance.
for his performance. It's like he was scary.
He was scary, and like you even know he's gonna come out because like I mean the movie had set it up so much that like he had to for anything to really progress at that point. But it still is pretty powerful when he comes out. You don't actually. I didn't expect him to do something violent. You kind of maybe expected yelling because other than pushing around Vale a little bit, like he hadn't really been violent. But this is a pretty big jump, which kind of gives like a bit more impact to that scene.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately for Aaron, as a result of him assaulting the prosecution, it's ruled a mistrial, and they're going to now kind of retry the case with him as insane as he clearly has proven with the whole assault thing, which I guess is better than being put to death, where he was heading to before that. Yeah. And this is also kind of creepy scene number 2, where Vale, this is really lame. This is double duty here. Yeah. Janet had just been fired. Yeah. She had just been assaulted in the courtroom, her place of work. She had just lost her job to some douchebag she really hated in the first place. And then Vale just kind of gets all in on her and kind of goes like, hey, baby, you want to dance? No, she doesn't want to dance. She wants to look for employment, Vale.
He's like, just turn around. That's all you have to do. And I'm like, dude, stop. This is not the moment.
Pick your moments, pal.
And like she doesn't, so good on her. I honestly, for a second, I was like, she's gonna turn around and she's gonna be like, "Oh, Richard Gere, give me the kisses." And no, she doesn't do it, which that surprised me, but in a good way.
I still think they kind of like insinuated that she still had feelings for him because I think she kind of lingered on it afterwards. Yeah. But like, what a bad time and place to try and like really kiss up on someone. Dear Lord.
You literally just got assaulted and you're coming up with the hot breath into the ear.
He just had to light her cigarette for her because her hands were too shaky to do it herself. Yeah. So now's the time to get down and dirty. Like, no, come on, buddy, keep it in your pants.
Ugh. But then we get to
the meat, the heart. Vale goes back to speak to Aaron to be like, hey, buddy, you kind of went psycho there, but I guess we did it. And, Aaron kind of is like, oh, I lost the time again. I guess that's good. I don't have a southern drawl. That was like, we're ignoring that. Yeah. But he's like, oh, thanks, man. And, tell Janet I'm sorry about her neck. And then you get the double take.
It's like the record scratch. Like,
tell who about what? Yeah. And then Aaron drops his sweet little boy and goes into Roy.
And this was so good.
It was so good.
I was like, ugh.
Like the transition, you can see like his face change. Yeah. It's so good where it kind of gets into Roy mode.
Yeah, and then like his posture, his tone of voice, like everything, like just when he becomes Roy, he gets his confidence. Yeah, and just this look in his eye, and you're like, oh God, stop, please.
Yeah, just go back to our beautiful child who I want to play catch with outside. Yeah, and so he reveals that he's currently Roy because there is no Aaron. Yeah, he's made up Aaron convincingly.
Aaron was the performance that he was putting on.
Yeah. Not Roy, not Aaron pretending to be Roy to do bad things, Roy pretending to be Aaron to get out of them. And it was really well done.
And like, he tricked a psychiatrist. Yeah. Like, I guess, she's an academic. She's not a forensic psychiatrist.
She's not a forensic psychiatrist. She's an idiot.
Fooled her.
She didn't know what she was doing.
He completely fooled her. And like, part of me wants to think that maybe he is a little, like, he's clearly crazy.
Yeah,
but
clearly.
Like, I don't know if he he maybe did have these personalities. I don't think he did, but maybe it's hard to say because there's so many aspects of his like performance that makes you think that there are, especially when he comes out.
Yeah.
But maybe he just picked the moments.
I think too, like he is still like a legitimate victim of abuse.
Yeah.
So I think maybe what happened is like maybe on like the first like he had a psychotic break, but he could still dip into the boy he used to be to fool people and like kind of lower their guard.
Maybe.
Because he was probably used that throughout his life. He was kept on as an altar boy probably by putting that act on. So he's probably like maybe he just has more control over his two personalities, but still does have two distinct personalities.
Yeah.
But can kind of just switch them on, or maybe he's just a really good actor.
Yeah. Or like he's just completely like a psychopath and is just doing the performance the whole time.
Yeah.
And so like he never feels bad. He never gets riled up. It's all just performance, that's even scarier.
Yeah. And then you get the first kind of break in Vale that you've really, other than the anger, because earlier when he was talking to a reporter, kind of drunk, 3/4 cut about why he does it, he was really just absolutely buttering himself up, being like, oh, I do it for the attention and the people. I see goodness in people, but I don't care about the money. I just love like the stardom.
Yeah.
And then when he clears the case as about as good as he can, he has the option to walk out the front doors to a group of reporters and people kind of interested in the case, but he's so shooken up by what he has allowed free that he just walks out the back door.
Yeah, all alone. No fame from this. And
all alone and hollow.
Yeah.
And no money because he did it pro bono.
Yeah, true.
Ooh.
I mean, I wonder if like the press appearances will pay for it, but he might not even want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
Feels bad. But that's Primal Fear.
That's the story of Primal Fear.
Yeah.
I do want to say one quick comment about the end. This is just kind of an additional thought. I kind of thought the way that Roy revealed himself, that slip up was a little silly. This guy had such a clean slate that he had, I mean, at least the academic psychiatrist confused. And then he just straight up mentions an action he had done as Roy after like being able to hide everything he'd done as Roy during the murder. I felt like they maybe could have given that a better conclusion where like even if he just intentionally revealed that to Vale, he could have done that there because it wouldn't have done anything. Maybe he wanted
to though. Maybe he wanted to reveal because he like mocks him at the end. Like he absolutely like gives him a new one, like digs him a new one because like he's like, I fucking fooled you. Like this was, I fucking killed the guy. And I think I only picked up on this later when I was doing like research about it, but I guess he also killed Linda.
Yes, he did.
I didn't realize that until after the movie was over and I was reading on afterwards.
I think it's like one line when he's taunting Vale about having killed her. Yeah.
So like he's clearly a psychotic person who murders often, or at least twice, but
probably more.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta assume.
You could have even done it where like Aaron says, I'm sorry about her neck. And then, Martin Vale's like, well, what? And then he could just be like, oh, like, I asked the guards and I'm sorry. Like, that's all it had to be. If you could easily have covered that up. Because he was, escorted out. And if he turned to Aaron, he'd be like, what did I do?
Yeah. And they'd tell him. They'd give him his wallet, too. What a sweet guy.
But yeah, I think they wanted that reveal. And actually, another thing I read about this movie was there was another ending that they tried where essentially Martin Vale, because he's been so soured by this, goes back to court and tries him again. And I think he like eventually does get him through to like a death penalty after this reveal. But like, I guess it just like it was probably too long.
Yeah,
and also
I don't think
it didn't really work in the end.
No.
So this like it was really resonant, the ending. And it worked as it was. But yeah, that was an option.
Yeah,
that they
I wouldn't want more movie after that reveal.
No.
They kind of wrapped it up pretty good after that. Like, there's no point dragging it out. You got like that kind of big hit at the end where, Aaron is Roy, Roy is not Aaron, bad people. And then like you can kind of end it with just a little bit of characterization for Vale when he goes out the back door instead. Probably the better way to do it.
But yeah, what were your kind of favorite parts of this movie?
The ending was, I mean, my favorite part of this was, what's Aaron's actor's name?
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton was so good in this. Like, I think his performance really sold me throughout the entire movie because it was pretty much just like a crime drama. Other than that, like this could have just been a Law and Order episode, like a good Law and Order arc.
Yep.
But Edward Norton is so good in this that like I really just want to watch the movie to see more of him.
Yeah, I want to see like I would want to watch it again to see if there's like clues or hints because maybe that would like, increase my enjoyment of it more if it's like, it's funny. Fight Club is another movie in which Edward Norton plays a character who it's revealed has multiple personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch that movie again, you can pick up on like the different ways that he was the same character.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, I don't know if that would be the case.
I don't think there was.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have that many scenes. It was mostly just conversations with other people. You couldn't really hide much in there. And because they want to build up that question of if he did it or not, I don't believe they let anything slip about the murder because you don't really know much about him other than he's maintaining his innocence and is a sweet, beautiful boy.
Another thing about this performance from Edward Norton was that the director had talked to him and he essentially said that like because no one knows who he is, they don't know what to expect. And so like the audiences at the time probably actually had a more like a different experience than we do, having known Edward Norton from other things, because at the time he was a completely new actor. And so they went in, and the first thing you see is just innocent boy Aaron. And so that's the only way that you know Edward Norton. And so you don't know that he's got this side of him where he can just completely go crazy and dark and completely fuck on people. But and so I think that might have served more as a surprise to the earlier audiences than to us in hindsight.
And I think like you can really set up Aaron as a small character in this, where he's kind of just like things are happening around him, but since he's not supposed to talk much, like he could have been a small role, which gives more weight to the reveal that he's actually the criminal murderer.
Yeah. Did you find the twist predictable in a way?
I didn't really expect it. I think it didn't really break a whole lot of ground. Like it was a good twist, but it wasn't something that it's not like some Shyamalan, like it really rephrased how you thought about your entire movie up to this point. It's just like, oh no, there was an asymmetry of information. He hid this. That's cool. Things still played out the way they would have if you had known that kind of anyways.
I think I agree. Like I liked the twist, and it did surprise me at the end with that he was just Roy and not Aaron at all. But I wasn't surprised that it was him that did it. Yeah. Because especially early on when he's like, oh, I got gaps in my memory, and then we see Roy come out once, I'm like, okay, it was him. And I don't think it asks that question of you for too long. Once it reveals Roy, I think you just kind of know. And I think the mystery of that was kind of lost just just with the nature of the movie and as you progress through it. And I think they either should have continued the mystery a little bit longer or just given it up early and just have it be the case of like Martin Vale's trying to get this guy off of death row, even though he did it. So,
yeah, because they kind of like two-part the reveal that like Roy as a reveal and that he murdered him was one part of it, and then Roy not being an act was a second part of it. So it kind of just breaks up the weight of it as well because they kind of two-part it.
And the bigger reveal was the second one.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh shit, so like he's not even multiple personalities. Like maybe it is, but like it's like completely psychotic. So I found that Edward Norton was the best of this movie though.
By far.
Laura Linney was good.
Yeah, no, maybe not by far. Laura Linney was also very good.
I really liked her character and she's good in pretty much everything. But Richard Gere, feasible.
Yeah, he was fine. He was kind of a bland, like, leading role, honestly.
Yeah.
I didn't really care about him that much.
No. This character could have been a lot creepier in the hands of someone less handsome.
Yeah.
Maybe. and or like less charismatic because like especially how he acts towards Janet in some ways, like I don't know how audiences felt about Richard Gere at the time. He probably was a bit of a heartthrob, but
I could see it.
That's a question for our parents rather than for us. But I think it was just fine.
And his character, like that character itself, has been in thousands of TV shows and movies.
Totally.
There's nothing new with his take on it.
Nah, absolutely not. All right, well then let's jump into the reviews. Did you have like a general sense of like maybe what audiences thought or critics thought? I
felt like they wouldn't be too divided, and it would be like a good, not great movie because it was like tight, nothing crazy.
Totally fine.
If I had to ballpark some answers, like I assume they'd both be around 75%.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes was a 76% for the critics. So that's fair. Audiences were actually quite high. It was at 89%. And for IMDb on audiences, it was 7.7. Metacritic is where it gets a little bit surprising.
Mm-hmm.
But I will preface this by saying there were only 18 reviews.
Okay, so a little skewed.
47.
Oh my god. That's not even as many stab wounds as the guy had.
Yeah, no, really low. And so like these 18 people didn't really care for it as much.
Just
so.
didn't care for it. They went back, I guess, or they went out of their way to make a review that not many other people cared to do, and they didn't even like it that much.
Yeah, so that was a weird low spot. Box office, though, was pretty successful. It had a budget of $30 million, and it made $102.6 million. As I said earlier, it was number one for 3 weekends in a row, which was actually tied for Independence Day, I think, for the most consecutive weeks in that year. But I think that was a slow period of time.
Well, you said it came out like April, right?
It was like April, yeah. So do you want to get into our rankings then?
Let's hit the rankings.
Okay. So as I explained earlier, we have a new ranking system: enjoyment, craft, execution, and rewatchability. So one thing I didn't do when we were talking about this earlier is I didn't add up the score out of 20 for Independence Day. So Jason, your total score was 14.5. Mine was 14, so pretty close. So 14 out of 20. I think that's pretty fair.
I think you can't ask for much more for Independence Day.
Yep, that's like a 70%. So 7 out of 10, that's how I ranked it anyways. Okay, but we're going to do this for Primal Fear. So for enjoyment, what are you ranking out of 5?
For enjoyment, I had a good time with the story. I found it like pretty engaging, but nothing like mind blowing. Probably just give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah,
a respectable 3 out of 5.
Looking back, most of my enjoyment out of this movie came from the ending, I think, and so I'm actually gonna go middle of the road, 2.5.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, if they had cut the building part out, maybe this goes up a bit. What was the
but
building
then it would have been just
for?
a TV show episode.
Yeah, it was already pretty close. That's true.
Yeah, I don't know what was in the book. Like, I kind of want to know, but then I also don't really care enough to read this book because it's kind of boring in a way.
If you don't have that ending as a surprise, and like I don't know if it's worth it.
Maybe the book's better. Maybe the book has more into that building aspect of it. But yeah, craft though.
Craft, nothing blew me away. I'm gonna give that one a 2.5 out of 5. Yeah, it's middle of the road.
I agree with you. I'm going to do 2.5 because it does kind of feel like a TV movie.
It really does.
And yeah, like we're not talking performance here. We're not talking about anything like that. This is just how it looks and how it feels. And it definitely felt and looked kind of like a TV movie. It even
felt like the wardrobe and the design was a TV cop show.
Yeah.
It really had that feeling.
TV budget. Okay. Execution. So this is on the writing and the actors.
Yeah. Edward Norton's going to add some points to this.
He elevates this.
Same with Laura Linney. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 for that. I think those two gave such a good performance, and no one really dragged it down afterwards.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think I'm also going to go with a 3 out of 5 because of Edward Norton and Laura Linney, but everyone else was pretty.
Yeah, everyone else did fine.
Basic.
Like they did what they needed to do. Didn't miss a beat, but like.
So, would you rewatch this on a scale of 1 to 5, or like what is your likelihood to rewatch this?
I'm gonna give this one a 2 out of 5 for rewatchability. Yeah. I am never gonna go out of my way to rewatch this, but if someone else wanted to watch it, I'd probably watch it again.
That is the definition of 2 out of 5. 2 out of 5 is like I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch this, but if it's there, sure,
I'll stay in the room.
Yeah. So I'm also gonna go with 2 out of 5 because.
Yeah, good thing I rated first, and you just copied me for all of them. Hey,
hey,
you can
I was
change
lower
some
on enjoyment.
answers.
I was lower on enjoyment.
Okay,
all right.
There we go.
So to add that up, I had an even 10, and you had a 10.5. So again, actually, that's the exact kind of same feeling we had about Independence Day, where you were a 0.5 higher than I was. But that leaves us at a 50% for me, and for you a 53%. So
it's funny that we're like, oh man, Metacritic so low, and then we scored it like a couple points higher and still way below everyone else.
Yeah, but I don't disagree. Like in my opinion, this 50%, this is a middle of the road type movie.
Completely.
And like I'm not surprised that they didn't get many Oscar nominees.
No.
I'll get to that now because that was a perfect segue. So for the Academy Awards, it was only nominated for 1. Can you guess who it was, or did you just look at the paper?
I already looked at it, but like everyone knows it's Best Supporting Actor.
For Edward
I could
Norton,
have seen.
no.
Oh no, because she was a lead. Laura Linney was a lead. I'm assuming.
I think she would have been supporting.
Oh, yeah.
Because Richard Gere was kind of the only lead.
He was kind of the only lead. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been the only other one I could see a nomination for.
Yeah.
But I assumed probably Norton the stronger one. I kind of thought maybe he'd even win.
He did not win. He
Robbery.
did, however, win the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor.
Okay.
And so that was really the only other notable win that came out of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the win of Edward Norton's whole career.
You know? The gift to humanity that Edward Norton has brought.
Yeah. Did any of that surprise you?
No.
No,
that sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. I'll quickly run through some funny Letterboxd reviews before we run into the interesting facts. So this is the first one from JD. He gave it 1 star. And here it is. Bad with probably 30 exclamation marks. Writing, like 15 exclamation marks. Bad, another 30. Directing, another 15.
Why the directing?
Bad, more 15 exclamation marks. Performances, in brackets, except for Frances McDormand. Actually, we didn't really finish it.
McDormand?
I mean, she was good in it, but like
fine.
she was...
What?
Yeah, she was just totally fine. Like, anyways, the last part of this is, how can they even deliver all that wooden dialogue leading up to a bullshit grand finale? Long period. Bad pacing period. No logic.
It was 130 minutes?
Even the music feels like a parody. I just didn't like it.
Oh man, I was kind of wondering if he was into it or not. I was kind of getting like an on the fence vibe, and then I'm glad he really wrote that one. Home.
I did find one more. This is from our girl Rebecca. She gave it 1 out of stars, but her only notes on it was, "Hey Edward Norton, lol, hey 3 Ys, bestie," and then 3 emojis, the kissy face, the surprised emoji, and the one with the blue top of the head. So she's got a thing for Edward Norton, but didn't like the movie.
What's that like bullshit like pickup strategy where like you make fun of, like you insult someone to pick them up? Maybe she like dropped that like 1 star to be like, I'm better than you, but you can holler at me.
Yeah. But Edward Norton? Like,
yeah, like
kind of a weird interest. Like, when did this review happen? Let me check. Oh, I can look. Oh, fuck. I didn't take that. But anyways, so I'll run into the interesting facts, and most of these actually have to do with the casting of Aaron Stampler. So, the part of Aaron Stampler was widely seen as a career-making role and was pursued by many young actors. 2,100 were auditioned. Matt Damon has said that he chased the role desperately, having previously missed out on the part of in Dead Poet Society. After being passed over again, he and Ben Affleck decided that the chances of another great part coming along, going through the ranks of known actors before being tossed to the wolves to fight it over, that's a quote, were so low that they had to do something about it. The result was the script for Good Will Hunting, which helped launch both their careers.
Damn.
So not only did this role launch the career of Edward Norton, but it also launched the careers of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in the denial of this role.
That's incredible. Can you see Matt Damon as having been Aaron Stampler?
No,
it would not have worked.
So, the casting director was on point there, but it pissed him off enough to write a great movie. Lastly, Leonardo DiCaprio was the first choice for Aaron Stampler, but declined, as did Will Wheaton.
Oh, God.
Others who auditioned included James Marsden, Danny Masterson, James Vanderbeek, and Pedro Pascal of Mandalorian fame, who said that this was his first ever audition for a role.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Good on the casting director, though, because that was the perfect of 2,100 plus.
Yeah,
the perfect choice.
Yeah, they nailed it. Like Edward Norton, great choice in this. Okay, well, I think that kind of wraps up my thoughts on Primal Fear. Did you have any other thoughts on Primal Fear?
I don't have a lot else going on.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I feel like this is one that not only did it get forgotten, like in the history, but when we're doing our wrap up episode, I can imagine this one's probably gonna get. A little bit glossed over.
I'm going to forget what this one was about by the time we get.
Yeah.
But like if my mom wanted to watch a thriller, I'd probably tell her this is worth a watch.
Yeah, totally fine. It's a totally fine movie. We should do our ranking before we wrap up.
Yes.
Because this is one thing that we're going to try to do this entire season. So at the end of and when we hit to the finale, we should have a ranking of 25 films, all in order from our favorites to our least favorite. as of now, both you and I have Independence Day as number 1. That is also because there's only one movie that we've talked about so far. But where would you rank Primal Fear?
Absolutely dead last, otherwise known as second.
Yeah, I'm also putting it at number 2 for now. This will get more interesting as a list as we progress, but for now, yes, number 2. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for listening to episode 2 of season 1 of Snubs and Dubs. As always, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and you can join our official Discord for the show. I would love to hear your thoughts on these films and on this episode, so please send me a tweet or a message or a question, recommendation, anything else. I'm also at Kyle Tobiasson on Twitter, and Jason is at Windy Mills on Twitter. Of course, all of those links are going to be in the show notes. Finally, I would like to remind you guys to leave a 5-star review. It really helps out the show, and we both would really appreciate it. In fact, if you had a review, I would read it off right now. We only had 1 written review so far, but 4 5-star reviews. So thank you for all 4 of you who have given us a 5-star review so far. But if you left a little message, it would be right here where we talk about it. We'd say it right now. You'd hear us talk about you.
And it's not too late. You 5-starred us. You're probably still here. Just drop another review.
Yeah, just do it right now. Just go right now. It's an app. You can do it. Make sure to check back next week for another episode, but here's a little sneak peek for that one.
All they ever wanted was to be wanted.
What are you putting that tape on your nose for?
Exactly.
Let's get lucky. Just do exactly as I say. Let's move. Come on. Get one of those bags. A bigger one, you idiot. What do you think?
Don't call me an idiot, you punk.
Do you have bigger bags for atlases or dictionaries, sir?
Do you know what that film is? Maybe tweet me. Take a guess. I don't know. I can't wait for you guys to hear it, though. Thank you for listening. That's a wrap. Bye.
Bye.